years. In some places in this video, the picture may not match the audio, but it was still made with a lot of hard work and turned out very well. Thanks for watching. Our team would really appreciate it if you put a like and subscribe. In the comments, you can suggest us a manga for recap. Enjoy watching!
There is a battle going on between a boy and a goblin in armor. The boy wields his sword and kills another goblin, who screams for the hero to stay away from him. The rest of the soldiers are shocked by this sight. One of the girls even vomits with horror. It is explained to the readers that the protagonist is a swordsman named Seto wielding a demonic blade. The hero turns to one of the soldiers and calls him by name, Reed. The soldier himself covers his nose in disgust. Reed announces that his work is done for the day. Approaching Seto, he admits that he had no idea how cruel the protagonist is. From this point on, Reed declares Seto's exclusion from the group of 5 heroes. Seto is shocked by this statement and doesn't know what to do. Reed says that the hero will probably become some kind of bandit, capable only of killing. Reed angrily proclaims that if Seto's fate does turn out that way, his team will do anything to bring down the hero. Reed leaves Seto, and the latter is left to stand alone. Wandering the forest alone, Seto ponders his situation. He used to take orders from adults and fight when necessary. Without elaborating on this thought, the hero comes to the conclusion that the first thing to do is to get sustenance. But a rustle in the leaf distracts Seto's attention. He stops and crouches down slightly. The rustle is repeated again, and the hero snatches his blade from its sheath. A wounded girl named Satis appears before the hero. Seto prepares for battle and pulls out 2 blades at once, because in front of him is the captain of the army of the Demon Lord, that constantly puts sticks in the wheels of the hero. The demoness takes a couple of steps forward, which alarms Seto. However, exhausted, she falls to the ground in front of the hero. Seto is perplexed and decides to figure out what's going on. After throwing the girl on his back, Seto brings her into his house, puts her to bed and covers her with a blanket. However, the demoness wakes up after a while and shrieks in fear, causing the frightened hero to draw his sword. Satis, in tears, begs for forgiveness and to stop. This behavior confuses Seto. Seto declares that he won't touch the girl, but for his own safety, the guy hides behind a table. Satis, who has more or less come to her senses, asks the hero if he is a member of the group of 5 heroes. The guy answers in the affirmative. The girl asks if he would kill her, but Seto replies that he has no reason to do such a thing to her, and it's unlikely that he could outsmart the demon commander. Seto annoyingly states that he is not a member of the 5 heroes, saying that he has been through a lot. Seto asks the demoness about her, but she only mumbles without giving a concrete answer. Seto reminds the girl that she once looked down on him. Instead of answering, the girl admits that she is the only one to blame for her current situation, even though she wants so badly to blame Seto. The girl tried many times to break the 5 heroes, but each attempt failed. Because of this, the Demon Lord became frustrated with his subordinate and sentenced her to punishment. The Lord wanted the girl to feel intense remorse before she died, causing her body to be tortured and beaten. Even low-level demons were wiping their feet on the girl's body, and the only thing she felt at this time was fear. Luckily for her, she was able to escape right before the new batch of torture and make her way to the forest. The girl states that she escaped because she was afraid of death. Seto decides to tell about himself. Satis is okay with his decision, but warns that she might find the boy's story boring. Seto shares that not only was he excluded from the 5 heroes, but he was also called a common killer. Continuing his story, Seto says that adults always ordered him to fight, and to avoid being beaten for disobeying, the boy obeyed orders. After Seto received the demon blade, the adults became more lenient towards him. The hero didn't understand why, but thought that since he was treated well, he wouldn't have any problems. However, Reed told him that it was a mistake to let Seto into the group. Reed points out that Seto only knows how to kill and fight, that there is no dignity or cooperativeness in prana. Reed emotionally reminds Seto that the purpose of their quest is to save humanity, not kill it, to which Seto states that fighting implies being killed, and there are only 2 things possible in the world: kill or be killed. Reed is not going to finish listening to Seto and expels him from the group. A puzzled Satis asks the hero if it's okay for him to tell her about something like this, but the hero assures the girl that it's okay and that he can't go back to the kingdom anyway. Seto says that he has no place to go back to and no people to worry about him. The girl asks the boy if he's lonely, to which the boy doesn't even know what to answer. Seto asks Satis what adults do when in a similar situation, but the girl also has no answer. Turning away from the guy, she lies on the bed. Meanwhile, Seto only sits on the floor in frustration. A sleepy Seto is afraid of being late for practice, but he quickly remembers that he doesn't need to attend anymore. With Satis still asleep on the bed, the boy heads outside. Noticing an apple tree, he starts picking the fruit. Noticing Satis, he creeps closer. The girl has just stepped out of the house and is staring pensively into the distance. Her serene appearance confuses the hero, as he notes that the demoness has just woken up and wonders why she is standing in one place. Holding out her hand towards Seto, she lifts the boy up with one swing, after which the boy lands on the ground. Satis says that girls don't like their shadows staring at them. Apples fall out of Seto's bag, and the boy excuses himself, saying that he wanted to bring fruit for a girl's breakfast. The guy asks Satis if she likes fruit. After mewling a bit, she answers in the affirmative. The girl notes that Seto not only saved her, but also decided to feed her. To this, the guy reminds the guest that he is not a member of the 5 heroes since some time. That's why he decides to become a bandit, but realizes that if he returns to his homeland, he'll surely be quartered. But for Seto, there's no longer a division between friends and enemies. Satis smirkingly informs him that if the boy captures her, he can avoid the death penalty. But Seto indifferently replies that he will not do the same. The demoness is surprised by his calmness. The girl thinks that Seto is overcome with a sense of humility because he was exhausted by all the events in his life. She realizes that neither she nor he has anywhere else to go. Abruptly, frightened birds fly over the characters. An anxious Satis assumes it's because of the demons. The girl is immediately overcome with panic. Seto, looking at his companion, assumes that she can't move from fear. Meanwhile, the smirking demons are approaching them, having finally found their mistress. The monsters recognize Seto from the signs of the humans they smelled. The monsters announce that they will eat both the girl and the guy. However, the demoness will be tortured again before the feast. The boar monster laughingly says that after torturing Satis, he started to enjoy playing with women. The boar casts his gaze at Seto and insults him, mentioning that the boy supposedly can't say a word out of fear. The boar points his blade at the boy, intending to kill him along with the girl. Fearing the blow, Satis raises her hands, but Seto stands in front of her, protecting her with his body. The boar rushes towards the guy, but Seto summons his blade with the lot spell. Seto pierces the belly of the enemy, causing the monster to scream in fear. The other demons watch the scene with fear. Jumping above the boar's head, Seto plans to deliver the final blow. Seto chops the boar in one fell swoop. The angry monsters prepare to attack the hero. Noticing this, Satis orders Seto to flee, as these monsters are much stronger than the others. 2 monsters, a goblin and a spider, attack Seto together, but the boy dodges and fights them one by one. Seto cuts the spider with one blow, and no wonder, because he has a magic sword, which has a power beyond human comprehension. Since magical times, there hasn't been a single person who has been able to use it. Those who utilize the magical power are called fit for the magic sword. The sword resembles destruction and storm, much like Seth's name. Seth ruthlessly and calmly finishes off the remaining monsters. Finished with the battle, Seto dissolves his blade in the air. Turning to the girl, he looks on with calm, cold eyes. Even after the battle, his mind remained empty. The boy asks Satis if she is hurt, and the demoness wonders to him if he is helping her. Seto gives a very simple reason why he's helping the girl. If the demons kill her, they won't leave her alive, and the boy just wants to live. In her thoughts, Satis catches herself on the fact that, unlike Seto in the past, only with amusement watched her enemies writhing in pain. But now she has lost everything, and her pride is shattered. She says with shame that she now fears demons beneath her in rank, which makes her feel weak. Satis fearfully confesses her insignificance. But Seto reassures her, saying that feeling fear during battle is normal, and he too has been through similar things. Seto continues, saying that both demons and humans are the same in battle, and each has their own goals, and he has seen many people lose their lives on the battlefield. This comforts Satis a bit, and she notes that Seto is pretty weird. However, The guy still doesn't understand why she said that. The girl gets up from her seat and, holding her hand to her chest, thanks the hero. Afterward, she wonders what the boy plans to do now. Seto excitedly tells her that he plans to start traveling and that he dreams of having his own place. Seto immediately offers Satis to join him. But the girl is a bit unsure, as she doesn't know where exactly her place is, and she is ashamed of her former actions in front of the boy. But Seto assures that from now on, they are comrades, not enemies. The embarrassed girl wipes away a tear of joy, then agrees to the adventure from her new friend. The girl then clarifies what the guy's name is, to which the guy says his name has always been Seto. The girl responds by saying her name is Satis. The heroes shake hands, and Satis asks to take care of her, taking the boy to meet her adventures. Satis takes a bath. She never even thought she would be able to relax in water again. A few hours earlier, Satis and Seto are walking through the forest. The boy sneaks around on the ground, and the girl asks him to stop and get to his feet. The boy replies that there are possible attacks near the Demon King's territory, and that the girl needs to duck as well. To her companion's words, the girl replies that there is nothing like that in the demon army, and then urges the guy to get up and walk in step. Seto agrees. Seto tells the demoness that if demons appear, he will destroy them. Under a tree, Seto and Satis are eating apples, and the boy notices that the girl is very good at peeling fruit. No wonder, for she has nimble fingers. Seto eats the fruit with appetite, and the girl says that the boy must have eaten delicious food in the group of heroes. However, the boy replies that he was often forgotten about. Seto was often told that he needed to stretch his diet since he could only fight. Therefore, the boy had to eat in dark corners away from prying eyes. The girl laughs that the boy was weak during the fight with her because of hunger. In her thoughts, the girl doesn't understand why the boy doesn't try to take revenge on the hero team for treating him like that. Noticing the thoughtfulness of the interlocutor, the guy asks what is on her mind. The girl only waves him off. Satis asks Seto what their plans are after leaving the city, to which the guy expresses his desire to go to the city. Hearing this, the girl suggests visiting the city's famous bathhouse. The guy doesn't mind. He asks if the bathhouse has a time limit and gets the answer that there is no time limit, but it's better not to sit there for a long time, as it can make you dizzy. The girl flirtatiously says that there are joint baths in the bathhouse, but the guy doesn't even know what they are. Satis asks Seto about money, and the guy is taken aback at what he hears, but the girl reassures him by saying she has human coins. The couple walks into a town called Clayshat. In a large bathroom, a girl wrapped in a towel intends to take a bath. The girl immerses herself in the water and relaxes. She is reflecting on the fact that she despised humans in the king's army, and now she is taking a bath in a human bath. The girl was interested in the baths in the city, but she planned to take them over. Before the demoness' eyes flashes memories of the torture that was carried out on her. This depresses the girl a bit. Sitting on the tiles, dipping her feet into the water, the girl realizes that she should definitely thank Seto. The girl wonders if Seto knows how to behave in places like this, but concludes that the guy isn't a kid, so neither worry. However, Seto stands in the middle of the bathroom with a bucket in his hands and intends to become a fish. But unfortunately for the boy, he is grabbed by the shoulder by an unknown man with a beard and informed that it is forbidden to swim in the bathhouse. This annoys the hero. Together they dive into the water, and the man asks if the boy is a traveler, to which Seto answers in the affirmative. The man tells him that baths are great for relieving fatigue after battles, but baths are different. Seto asks if the man is a mercenary, as he doesn't look like a regular soldier, and the man grudgingly replies to the guy that he is. Seto shares with the man his dream of visiting many places and having his own house. The man inquires if Satis is involved in Seto's places. Upon hearing the girl's name, the guy gets angry. However, the stranger calms him down. After taking his towel, the stranger leaves, saying that the hero can find it on the battlefield. The guy asks the stranger's name, to which he gets the answer, Holmes. After the bath, Satis and Seto come to a spacious diner. The girl orders a lot of food for the guy. Satis says it's in gratitude. The overjoyed guy tears the meat with his mouth. It's so delicious that Seto blooms. Seeing the girl eat, he notes that important people always use manners. The girl notes that the guy, though mature, is still a kid. The boy assumes that because of his ability to handle a magic sword, he often had to socialize with adults, hence the peculiarities of his character. The boy admits that he is jealous of Satis. This takes the girl aback. Blushing, the boy shares that during the battles he only imitated adults. Because of this, he could not recognize himself. And seeing the girl laughing carefree or angry, he is very jealous. The girl is fascinated by the boy's honesty. The girl reflects on the fact that the human aspect of Seto has remained unchanged. He is not broken by the harsh conditions of life. The boy thanks Satis for the food, and the girl admits that she understands the boy a little better. The boy is perplexed, and the demoness explains that she thinks Seto is a wonderful young man. When Seto hears this, he only gets embarrassed and blushes. Seto asks Satis to take a walk with him before they return to the lodge, as he wants to spend some more time with the girl. The girl giggles and holds out her hand and agrees to the guy's offer. While walking through the city at night, Seto gazes admiringly at his companion and wonders in his mind about the new feeling he is experiencing for the first time. Meanwhile, the hero's team is running through the forest, and the commander is puzzled as to why this happened. A pack of monster wolves surrounds the hero group. The commander tells the terrified team to regroup. One of the participants, Angelica, tries to read a spell, but she is attacked by a wolf. The girl dodges. She realizes that she doesn't have time to use her powers and asks the group to distract the monsters. Another girl says that it is impossible to fulfill Angelica's request, as she is pinned down by wolves. Raid takes out a huge number of monsters in one fell swoop. Due to the number of monsters, the commander orders a retreat. The team of heroes retreats far beyond the territory of the Demon King. An angry Angelica says that the team has nothing, not even water. One of the mages says that such a thing happened because the team got caught in the attack of the defenders. However, Angelica disagrees. In her opinion, the swordswoman and mage should have focused on the enemies. Tired of yelling, the commander asks Angelica to calm down. However, the girl accuses the commander of being irresponsible and asks why he chased Seto away. The girl says that due to Seto's absence, the overall strength of the team has dropped significantly. The commander justifies by saying that Seto's strength does not help humanity, but Angelica does not want to hear such naive excuses. Swordswoman Gara asks not to criticize Ride, as the entire team supported the decision to banish Seto. To this, Angelica sneers and asks what the swordswoman hopes for now that she has such charging skills. Gara says that she doesn't care about the girl's insults, but she won't forgive her if she insults the martial art invented by her father. The mage asks the girls to calm down, as their quarrel makes absolutely no sense. The mage suggests they rest, and afterward find a village nearby and replenish their supplies. Angelica says that one of the heroes should stay on guard. Angelica looks at the commander and reminds him that it is because of his decision that Seto is no longer on the team. Hearing this, Ride lets his group go to rest, while he himself stays on guard. Sitting on the ground, Ride wonders why things have turned out the way they have. While walking through the city at night, Seto admires Satis' beauty in his thoughts. Noticing the boy's gaze, the demoness wonders why the boy is looking at her so intently. The embarrassed boy only brushes it off. At the hotel, the girl takes a room, but it has only one bed. Seto intends to sleep on the floor, but Satis suggests that they share the bed and share it. A blushing Seto asks the demoness if she's okay with this, to which she replies that she doesn't care. The girl makes one condition: do not touch her under any circumstances. Hearing this, the guy stands in mute shock. Left alone, the boy ponders. Up until now, he has done nothing but follow the orders of adults, bait for monsters, fence territories while his comrades rest. He has been tortured and interrogated many times, used as a vanguard and rearguard. But even despite his hard life, the boy doesn't realize that life didn't prepare him for such things, which makes the boy very worried. A worried Seto decides to escape through the window, but doesn't manage to do so, as Satis enters the room. The girl presents in her nightie, consisting of a short skirt and a top. Seeing her, the guy is shy and doesn't know where to put himself. Seeing his confusion, the girl asks what exactly the guy wants to say. The girl comes closer and puts her hand on the guy's cheek, saying that Seto must be embarrassed. The girl is mortified by this. The guy jumps on the floor as he doesn't understand how he can share a bed with Satis dressed in such revealing clothes. The girl leans her back against the hero's back. Though she has forbidden to touch her, she has not forbidden to look at her. The boy asks what adults do in a situation like this, and the girl laughingly says she doesn't know. Seto and Satis are lying on the same bed. The girl is sleeping peacefully, but the boy can't even close his eyes from excitement. The hero realizes that he can't sleep, knowing in what form the girl is next to him. The hero feels the pleasant aroma of flowers coming from Satis. Seth imagines that the girl whispers in his ear and touches him. In the boy's imagination, the girl lulls the boy to sleep and asks him to rest. The boy gives in and falls asleep. The reader realizes the passing had nothing to do with the hero's imagination. Satis used magic to calm the hero. In the morning, the hero wakes up and remembers everything that happened during the night. However, he can't tell if it was in his head or happened in reality. Seto falls off the bed and hits his head. He is noticed by Satis for doing so. She invites the guy over for breakfast. The boy is mumbling, and the girl suspects that the boy is sick. Putting her hand to his forehead, she notes the boy's lack of temperature. This gesture confuses the hero, which makes him blush. The boy starts to change his clothes quickly, but his hands are shaking and he feels pain in his chest. Seto is perplexed. He doesn't understand what's happening to him. The heroes are having a throaty breakfast on a table outside. Seto is delighted by the abundance of food on the table. However, even though the breakfast is appetizing, Seto can't help but stare at Satis, who is sitting across the table. The girl notices the guy looking around and wonders if he's okay. The guy just says nothing happened and takes a bite of a piece of toast. However, smears himself with sauce. The girl notices this and viterates the guy's lip with her finger. Satis licks his finger. Seto shocks me with this picture. And the girl smilingly reprimands him for looking indecently in her direction. The flushed guy is panicking a lot. He's embarrassed by the fact that he's never been treated so nicely before. Seto tries to regain his composure by reminding himself that he's a soldier. Seto asks the girl if she would mind if they split up today. The guy argues that he wants to see the sights. With a smirk, the girl reminds the guy of his request from yesterday to see the night city in the company of a demoness. This leaves the guy confused, and he starts to panic. Satis, on the other hand, only laughs. Satis agrees to Seth's proposal. The girl says that she intends to visit one particular place. The boy is walking alone. This is the first time he's gotten out somewhere without people. Since he met Satis, he has been lucky enough to experience many new things. While daydreaming, Seto bumps into Holmes. Once in town, Satis warns Seto not to use the magic sword or start fights. The girl explained that the one who uses a magic sword will be called a monster. The girl also admonished the guy not to go back to the past, as Seto is now starting to live a different life. After listening to the girl, the boy makes a promise. Holmes greets Seto happily and asks about Satis. But hearing about the demoness, the guy only blushes and mumbles. Holmes only grins and says that some things should remain behind closed doors. Holmes suggests that Seto take a walk with him. The man leads the boy to a gun store. Seto asks Holmes about his work, and he talks about how parts of conquered monsters are brought into the city to create weapons and armor. Holmes explains that the mercenaries are escorting the transportation of monster parts. The mercenary says that this is the place where Seto can have a date with Satis and watch the mercenaries work at the same time. But Seto only hastily informs that he and Satis are not in a relationship. Holmes only says with a smile that the kid has fallen in love with someone who has been looking after him for a while. Seto is only embarrassed to see this. The mercenary pats the youngster's back encouragingly. Seto notices a huge monster being brought in on a cart, a species, a rare dragon. For a second, the boy looks around. He worries about Satis, who might panic at the sight of the dead dragon. Holmes says goodbye to Seto. The boy wants to tell his name, but the mercenary assures him that it is useless and that he will continue to call his friend Kid. Having said goodbye to Holmes, Seto runs in search of Satis, as the hero has a bad feeling. Panic starts in the street because of the dragon that suddenly woke up. Seto wants to pull out his magic sword. However, he realizes that he will break the promise he made to Satis. He realizes that if he uses the sword, it will cause trouble for both him and the girl. An unknown man runs up to the boy. He yells for the boy to run. Seto asks if he has seen Satis. He is answered by another stranger saying that the demoness is in the square. In his thoughts, the hero swears to Satis that he will save her. A little earlier, the dev walked around the city. She gathered information about the situation in the city. On the same street, a man is chopping the tail of a monster to use the materials for weapons. Looking at the monster's dead body, Devcam feels terrible. She plans to leave the square, but the dragon suddenly wakes up. The dragon heads towards the girl. Satis tries to calm herself down so she can attack. The demoness body is stony with terror. The girl thanks Seto in her thoughts for their time together and apologizes for leaving him alone again. Sitting on the ground and remembering their happiest moments, she confesses that she would like to live together with Seto. Opening her eyes, she sees a man in a monkey mask in front of her. Citizens gather in the square. None of the people can realize who the unknown masked guy is. It is only Satis who recognizes Seto. The dragon catches Seto's gaze and attacks, but he manages to dodge. The monster hits the guy with his tail, but Seto speeds straight towards the dragon. The guy approaches the dragon's neck and strikes. The excited townspeople cheer Seto on. Satis realizes that Seto won't last long, as he moves too fast. The sword he uses is ordinary and will break soon. The dragon kicks the floor and a city tile bounces off the ground and hits Seto in the face, causing his mask to split from underneath. Seto instructs Satis to run. The girl in alarm can't even move. She realizes that Seto has saved her life several times already, and she can't let the kid protect her forever. Suddenly, the monster gets hit from the side. This comes as a surprise to Seto. It's Satis. She uses magic to strike the monster while covering Seto. Due to the girl's blows, smoke and dust envelopes the area. This maneuver was done so that Seto could use his magic sword. After throwing away the regular sword, the guy summons the magic sword. Having shortened the distance between himself and the dragon, the guy kills the bridge with a single blow. The citizens are wild over the dead body of the dragon. They want to thank Seto and Satis, but the pair flee the scene. Satis runs to the hotel and finds Seto sitting quietly in the room, pretending to know nothing about the dragon and the commotion in the city. The girl plays along with Seto. Satis hugs the hero and thanks him for keeping his promise. The heroes plan to leave the city and head to the northern village. Meanwhile, in the Demon Kingdom, the Demon King angrily reprimands his subordinates for not finding Satis. Ever since the girl escaped the kingdom, the demon army has been losing to the humans. The king orders that someone named Sebuk be sent to the battlefields. Upon hearing this, the monsters become distraught. The monster's object, as Sebuk, is half demon and half human, and such a brutal monster should only be used in the latter case. The king confesses his reluctance to use the half-demon, but he has no other choice. One of the demons brings an affirmative order to Sebuk. Sitting on a rock and holding a huge sword, Sebuk rejoices at the opportunity to take more lives. Satis and Seto stroll carefree along the tract. The girl notes that the Demon King has begun to lose his grip. An enthusiastic Seto points out the snow on the mountaintops to the girl. The girl notes that the temperature is cooler on the peaks. The girl says that after the war, anyone will be able to walk safely on the tract. Hearing this, the guy wishes for peace to come as soon as possible. In the distance, Seto notices a body on the ground. Running closer, it turns out to be a girl. The stranger wakes up and grabs the guy's ankle. She screams for water and food and then pounces on Seto. However, Seto wraps the girl's hands behind her back and throws her to the ground. After calming down, she admits that she is hungry. A girl dressed as a soldier pounces on the food, apologizing in parallel for attacking Seto. Her name is Kalim, and she was sent to Benjamin Village. However, she got lost. Seto and Satis say their names, and Kalim they seem familiar. The kid invites Kalim to join them. Satis doesn't like the idea as the couple risks being exposed. Seto reassures the demoness by saying that he doesn't feel any danger from the soldier. Oh, and Kalim looks like Holmes, which gives Seto some credibility. The Trinity finally arrives at the village of Weirdos. Kalim goes to find the headman. They are greeted by the headman, a nice old woman named Scarlet. Satis calls Seto his relative. It shocks the boy, but the girl convinces him that this way the interlocutor will be calmer. Scarlet asks Satis and Seto what they are doing in her village. The demoness replies that the couple is traveling and asks to stop for a few nights. Scarlet assigns the trio one of the houses. The old woman shares that the villagers are all like Seto and Satis, and their coming to this place is predestined by fate. The old woman wants to show her guests her new home, but a homing pigeon flies into the room and delivers a message. Unwrapping the roll-up, the headman informs that the heroes have to stay in the village longer. Scarlet says that the king's army is advancing with renewed vigor. The headman leaves the room to break the news to Kaleem. Satis doesn't understand how the king decided to attack with his weakened army. The demoness guesses and tells Seto that they really need to stay in the village for a while. Meanwhile, the team of heroes are fighting the monsters with all their might. That's when Sebek comes in. Ryle sees the half-breed for the first time. In a flash, the team realizes that Sebek is a warrior with a magic sword. The swordswoman accuses Sebek because in order to apply to demons, you have to fall as low as possible. The half-breed replies that it doesn't matter to him who to fight for, and he just enjoys killing his enemies. Sebek tells Reed that his justice is only hatred for the demons. But he doesn't blame the commander, as such men are needed to continue the wars that are part of their lives. Sebek points his sword, summoned with viper venom at Raid, and calls him to a duel. Sebek's aura taunts Raid. The duel stops before it begins, as a messenger arrives for Sebek. The king orders the half-breed to go to the western front, then to the eastern front and stand in battle formation. The news pleases Sebek. Sebek joyfully leaves the squad. One of the monsters resents him for not finishing his work. The half-breed says it's a simple job and the squad can handle it on their own. After Sebek leaves, the low-ranking monsters engage the hero squad. Gare gets hit in the head with a club. Raid instructs Sebek to not jump over his head and retreat. The commander wants to solve the monster problem in one sitting. Raid kills the monsters with one swing of his sword. A delighted Gera calls him one of the bravest in her thoughts. A team of 5 heroes, using magic and swords, come out victorious. However, one of the mages, Makrin, lies motionless on the ground. Sitting around the campfire, the team pays for the death of their comrade. Angelica yells at Ryle as they are left without food and water. A depressed Gera only watches her comrades fight. She had hoped that her trek with her team would be full of happy moments. The swordswoman wonders what Seto would do, since this guy has lived his entire life in battle. Arwidi grabs Gera and asks him if he despises the commander. He reminds her that everyone on the team hated Seto, but it's too late to remember him.
Rid topples Gaira over.
Arwidi yells at Gera, reminding her that her behavior is against morality. The frightened girl asks the commander to calm down. Angelica observes this scene and smirks sinisterly. Angelica tells Gera that her martial arts are very meaningful, but they are not enough in battle. Angelica calls the girl baggage. Reed supports Angelica, saying that Gera has ambition but lacks strength. The dumbfounded girl wonders if she joined the team for a good cause. She realizes if she was chosen like Seto, she would be an embarrassment to the clan. Gera bows her head in an earthly bow and forgives her comrades not to abandon her. This picture makes Angelica laugh. Angelica takes Gera by the face and gives her orders. The girl must find Seto and bring him to the team. The frightened and tired girl gets up to hit the road. With a smirk, Angelica says she will use Gera from now on. Angelica announces to Rado that it is now just the two of them. The commander says that he is much calmer now. Rado would love to have Makrin with them, but since that's not possible now, he's not too upset. With a sneer, Rado says that Makrin's skills were pretty meager. Gera, meanwhile, continues on her way crying. She realizes that Rado and Angelica have changed a lot, but naively hopes that if she brings Seto along, things will get better. Gera is determined to find Seto. Seto hunts for herons in the forest. With one shot, he kills a bird. A man named Ryoto emerges from the bushes and praises Seto's skills. It is the 5th day that Satis and Seto have been in the village. During this time, they help the villagers with hunting. At the lodge, Ryoto asks Seto why he can't do simple household chores, as the kid has fallen many times with plates in his hands. Seto refuses, saying that even a wooden plate can be broken if he wants to. Seto asks Ryoto how he ended up in this village. After all, Ryoto is a famous sniper. The kid expresses his respect for the man, but Ryoto says that he's not as good as the boy makes him out to be. He is only a killer that took many lives and now hides in the shadows. Rubbing the hair on Seto's head, Ryoto instructs him to mind his own business. On the hill, Seto watches the rams grazing peacefully and the huts standing. Seto sits quietly on the grass and thinks how many such beautiful and peaceful places there are in the world. In the distance, he sees a man that walks up to him and calls him by name. This is Kaleem, who is making her rounds. The girl says that she envies Seto since he was able to get along with Ryoto. Kaleem shares that she was once in love with a man similar to Ryoto, but he dumped her despite everything the girl did for him. The girl says she used to give him money for sake, rice, and gambling. But as soon as she ran out of savings and borrowed some money from the barracks, she was immediately sent to the village. However, Kaleem is not angry with her former lover, as he is an excellent ground soldier. Kaleem tells her that the man's name is Holmes. The familiar name shocks Seto. The boy is perplexed as to what this man does. Kaleem gets up from her seat and says goodbye to the guy, as she needs to continue her work. At home, Satis treats Seto to her homemade pie, the recipe for which she got from Scarlet. Seto loves the treat, as it tastes better than a restaurant pie. Satis offers Seto to take a day off and go on a picnic together. The boy doesn't know what a picnic is, and the girl calmly explains to him that it is a type of vacation in which one admires the scenery and has fun. Satis asks Seto to pour tea, but warns him not to drop the dishes. Seto resolutely decides to fulfill his friend's request. Over a cup of tea, Seto says that the drink tastes much better than water. Satis tells the boyfriend that there will be more sweets tomorrow, and the boyfriend can't wait for tomorrow to come. In the evening, Seto goes to the bathtub, and the girl left alone plans to thoroughly wash the kid who washes himself so quickly. In the bathroom, Seto is calmly taking a bath. The equipment in this room is as good as the capitals. Seto goes over the names of the new adults in his head: Kaleem, Scarlet, and Ryoto. They are all fine people, unlike any the boy has met before. The boy douses himself with water. He wants to stay in this village longer. Suddenly, Satis walks into the bathroom. She tells Seto that he probably didn't wash himself properly. Seto says Satis' name perplexedly. Pak. The girl smiles cheerfully. The girl walks around the bathroom carefree. Meanwhile, a flushed Seto asks her what she forgot in the bathroom. The girl says she'll show Seto how to wash his body. Satis sits the boy down and lathers up his hair. Satis, humming to herself, calmly washes her friend's head. Meanwhile, Seto obediently sits back down. The boy notes to himself that the girl is pleasantly soaping his head, but he is confused by the fact that Satis' body is too close to him. The girl sees the scars of knives and torture on the boy's back. Though Seth is a child, his back gives away bitter experience. After washing his head, the kid sits in the water while Satis douses himself with water behind his back. This fact makes Seto very nervous. He desperately tries to fight the urge to look at Satis, but the girl gigglingly rests her back against the guy's back as she plunges into the water. Seto realizes that something is clearly going wrong, so he bursts out of his seat and runs out of the bathtub. The demoness only smilingly reproaches herself for being too assertive. In Seto's room, he wants to change before Satis comes out. However, only the girl's clothes are in the basket. The boy's hand reaches for it, but stops abruptly. Satis hears a bang on the door. She asks her friend what it was, but catches Seth with a bruise on his cheek. After a bath, the boy lies tiredly on the couch. A girl approaches the boy and gives him a glass of water. She suggests that the long bath has made Seto dizzy. Satis suggests that Seto sleep together, sharing a bed. When he hears this, he chokes on the water and runs out of the room, wishing the girl a good night. The demoness smiles and hopes that Seto will get used to it soon. Seto peeks out from behind the door and bragging to Satis for a bath together. The heroes go to bed separately. The next day, the heroes go to the picnic site with a basket in their hands. After spreading a blanket, they lie down under a tree. Satis takes out sandwiches and vegetables from the basket. Seto admires the food. Seto greedily takes a bite of the sandwich, then praises the girl's cooking. Seto says that the vastness of nature makes him feel tiny. Satis supports his friend's words and says that even castles made of gold and silver can't compare to the beauty of nature. After a snack, Seth is drawn to sleep. The girl carefully tucks him on her lap. The guy feels nostalgic and shares this with the girl. Satis suggests that perhaps Seto's ancestors came to this place, and their memory is displayed in Seto's mind. And now the force of nature imprinted in the kid's head makes him feel nostalgic. Under the girl's story, the boy falls asleep. After sleeping, Seto pulls himself up and Satis gathers the bedspread. After looking at the neighborhood, Seto plans to go for a walk. After warning the girl, he wakes up on the way, but suddenly falls down. A frightened Satis rushes to her friend's aid. Satis finds Seto in a strange tunnel. The boy asks the girl to come down to him to figure out where he's gone. The girl goes down and uses magic to light up the tunnel. As they walk forward, they look at the totem that were meant as a tribute to the gods. Satis says they were carved by a tribe that lived in this place many years ago. Touching the totem, the girl notes that they are not wood-like in structure, more like stone. Satis tries to figure out who is the owner of the totems here. The heroes go to the central room and see an altar in front of them. The girl gets smart and tells the guy about one of the legends. Many years ago, the monsters were divided into factions, but after a time they began to band together under the title of Demon King. And only one of the factions did not submit, namely the Wendigo faction, who were nature spirits. These spirits have existed since the beginning of time, and the tunnel served as a place for Wendigo worship. Satis satisfied with Satis' story, Seto wants to go back, but the admiring girl can't just leave such a historically important place. While the girl examines the walls, Seto watches her. He has never seen Satis so keenly interested in something before. The guy catches himself thinking too much, thinking about the demoness, telling you off for it. He averts his gaze to the altar. To his surprise, there is someone sitting at the back of the altar. The image of a creature wearing a cloak with many developing square hems that look like tentacles appears before your eyes. A shocked and frightened Seto wonders what it is. Satis moves closer to her friend. She has already called out to him several times. The kid apologizes for the long answer and points behind the altar. Looking in the direction Seto is pointing, the girl discovers nothing. On the hunt, Seto shares with Redo the stuffing of the tunnel. The sniper confirms Satis' words and says that the Wendigo were indeed worshipped in this place. Redo asks Seto to visit a shaman named Jendar, who lives on the western edge of the village. Seto decides to go for it and visits the shaman. His old house is already falling apart, and there are totems sticking out in the ground near it. Once inside, Seto is greeted by an old man with feathers in his long hair. Jendar calls Seto the boy of destruction and storm. Seto is surprised that the old man knows him by name. Jendar pours black tea for his guest. The old man explains that the totems that Seto and Satis saw symbolize death, and that the oldest of the Wendigo, a hospital, was worshipped in that tunnel. For the Yeller tribe, this is the primary deity. The deity appeared when darkness enveloped the world. From his body, he created life. He spent 10,000 years to create water, sky, animals, and after that man. Seth listens to this legend with interest, sipping his tea. The old man says that any life will return to Ahas, and in the next will become food for others. And those who despise the lives of others, Ahas despises himself. Seto says a video in the tunnel of a man with tentacles, which makes the old man drop his tea in shock. He can't believe the boy saw Ahas. Seto says that unlike him, Satis didn't see Ahas. The old man reassures him that the boy was definitely not imagining things. The old man also saw Ahas a long time ago, but since he showed his face to Seto, he must have considered him special. But this is very strange for Seto, since the boy has taken a huge number of lives. The old man suggests that Ahas may be testing Seto. The old man says that you can tell from the boy's eyes that he has overcome his inner conflict. He also says that Seto and Satis will soon be visited by an unexpected guest. This guest will be a haggard woman with crazy eyes. The old man blesses the boy. After Seto leaves, the shaman notes with a smile that the hero will be able to overcome all the problems. Meanwhile, a distraught Gara screams Seto's name in the forest. At night, Seto can't sleep. He keeps thinking about Asa and the unknown guest who will visit him soon. Seto goes outside to get some rest. A beautiful moon is shining overhead, which the hero admires. After walking for a while, the hero finally falls asleep. Seto plans to go back to his room, but sees a tired Gara in front of him. Seto grabs his sword out of surprise. Gara smilingly reprimands the hero, saying that unlike the team of heroes who are trying to save humanity, Seto is living his life quietly. Seto asks her how she managed to find him. The girl replies that she had been gathering information, and the townspeople had told her about Seto and Satis. Gara's past image flashes before the young man's eyes. She was completely different. In a mad smile, Gara asks Seto to come back, because her team needs the hero's strength more than ever. But Seto only apologizes to the girl and puts his blade away. Seto says he won't be returning to the team. This leaves the girl distraught, and she comes closer and punches the guy in the face. In a harrowing scream, Gara orders the boy to obey and comply with the adult's request. Seto refuses to comply, whereupon Gara bare her blade. However, Gara fails to strike in time. Satis grabs the blade of her blade. Upon seeing the demoness, the swordswoman accuses her of allegedly brainwashing the hero. Gara recognizes Satis as the general of the demon army. The demoness breaks the swordswoman's blade with one hand, leaving Gara horrified. Satis asks Seto to run away while she fights Gara. Seto doesn't like the idea, as he is worried about the demoness, but she convinces him that now she is not as tired and scared as the girl he met in the forest. Gara pulls out a strange pill she once took from the leader of a group of bandits. After taking the strange pill, Gara gains beastly strength. With a smirk, Satis tells Gara that the magic drug won't help her defeat the demoness. But that doesn't bother the swordswoman. Now after taking the drug she will at least have fun. Gara is quick with her kicks, paralleling that demoness is only introducing Seto by the nose. Meanwhile, Satis defends herself from elbow strikes. Satis, stop defending herself, strikes her opponent's stomach with her fist. Afterwards, he finishes her off with a leg kick to the head. Satis explains that she doesn't plan to argue with someone whose mind is so rotten. After regaining her composure, Gara retaliates with a leg kick, but the demoness defends herself. After the swordswoman hits the girl's sternum with her elbow, causing Satis to fly away. A flustered Seto all but shouts his friend's name. Urur does not crush Satis, and Hydra notes that the demoness is quite strong. Satis admits to the swordswoman that she is no longer a soldier, and neither is Seto, but no matter what Satis proves now, Hydra's own clouded mind cannot make her understand what is happening. With renewed vigor, Satis attacks Gara, while Seto anxiously watches the battle. Kilim comes to the aid of Satis. The mercenary knocks Gara down, and the demoness finishes her attack with a leg kick to her opponent's face. The defeated Gara lies motionless on the ground while Kilim, having bared her blade, asks her to surrender in the name of the village. Satis and Seto decide to leave the village. Over a cup of tea, Satis tells the headman about Gara and apologizes for the inconvenience. Scarlet marvels at the fact that the demon girl is protecting the humans. The headman admits that the whole village knew that Satis was not human. Hearing such a thing, the demon girl asks why she was allowed to stay. With a smile, Scarlet explains to Satis that they have a very eccentric village and every resident can find peace in it. Satis realizes that her attitude towards people was wrong. For a very long time, she looked at them with arrogance. After listening to the old woman, the girl cannot contain her emotions and, crying, thanks Scarlet. A rewound Gara wakes up in an unknown room. The heroes are sitting in the carriage of an elderly couple. Seto counts how many provisions they have been given for the journey. Amongst everything, boiled and smoked meat. Satis jokingly says that Seto will surely be liked by the villagers. These words confuse the guy. The girl notes that the village exceeded expectations. What surprised her the most was that the villagers accepted them for who they are. Moving closer to the elderly couple, Satis thanks them for agreeing to give them a ride. Though the war has subsided, Hydra is still bothering Satis. The demoness says that the Demon King has begun to lose to the heroes' team. But Grandfather is surprised to clarify if the heroes have heard the latest news. Grandpa clarifies that the hero team is considered missing. Its last appearance was in the same village with a large lake. Seto immediately recognizes the place. The same place where the boy fought with the team for the last time. The grandfather also shares a rumor of frequent attacks on caravans. It is believed that the team of 5 heroes is behind this. Grandpa suggests a stop and Satis treats everyone to sausages. The travelers sit under a tree and have a snack. Seto reflects on what he has heard. He can't believe that Reed has become a bandit, and Hydra's changed character alarms him. The boy assumes there has been an accident. After meeting with Hydra, Seto realizes that he doesn't want to live as an ordinary soldier, because he has finally become a person. And all the changes happen next to Satis, who now looks at Seto with a smile. After a snack, Seto hears Aha's footsteps, but doesn't realize what the sound is. Turning around, Seto observes the deity in all his glory. Aha stands motionless in front of him. However, Aha simply turns around and walks away. A concerned Satis runs up to Seto, but still can't see the deity. The kid concludes that only he can see Ahas. Suddenly, a letter appears in the youth's hands. Satis calls the lad to go on a road trip. Seth asks the girl what the name of the town they're headed to is. Turns out it's Elendona, or the Kitchen of Adventure. Meanwhile, a low demon named Gabiroku clears the battlefield, then calls out to Sebek. The half-breed praises the demon's work. Gabiroku asks if the Orc King is all right. Sebek does not give a definite answer, but only tells how the Orc King left the battlefield, leaving all his duties to his subordinates. Sebek calls such an act cowardly, and Gabiroku asks the half-breed to choose his words, pointing to the many dead bodies on the battlefield. Sebek tells Gabiroku that he needs to clean up. Gabiroku recalls that when he and Sebek first arrived, the orc army had already been destroyed, but once the half-breed went into battle, he fought for 1,000 soldiers. Gabiroku directly asks Sebek if the demon army has a future, since the discipline and morale of the demons is worse than ever, and the defeat started after Satis expelled their army. Sebek does not care who he is fighting for or what the morale of his comrades is. However, Gabiroku is unhappy that the Demon King decided to humiliate Satis before his death by torturing him. Pointing a finger in Gabiroku's face, Sebek asks him to voice his displeasure to the king's face. The words make the demon timid, and the half-breed smiles at his comrade's reaction, expressing his desire to reach the next battlefield. Sebek shares that he wants to fight someone stronger and die at the hands of someone who is stronger than the half-breed. In his thoughts, Gabiroku realizes that the Demon King is very close to failure, and Sebek is the only hope for victory. Sebek reminds Gabiroku that the Demon King gave them some sort of instructions. The demon says that they need to go to the Wendigo lands and destroy everything there, to intimidate their enemies. Unfolding the map, Sebek sees the adventure kitchen. An ecstatic Sebek burns with what he senses is a beautiful battle ahead. Satis wakes up Seto, which is sleeping peacefully on her lap. The girl announces her imminent arrival and asks the guy to look outside. The guy gets a view of a huge city with the sea. Seto says he had no idea how big the sea was. The guy wants to try sushi by catching fish from the sea. The guy explains that sushi is raw fish and rice. The girl replies that she has never tried something like that. The heroes plan to explore the town and try sushi after they find an overnight stay. In the city, the couple finds a store with Japanese characters. The heroes enter a restaurant and take a seat in front of the sushi man. The chef offers them to choose a dish, onigiri or atsumami. But neither Seto nor Satis order, as it is the first time they hear these words. The waitress apologizes for the sushi maker's behavior and explains to the heroes that onigiri is a snack in the form of a triangle of rice with a filling inside. And atsumami is also a type of snack. The heroes make an order, and they get sushi and sashimi on the table. The beauty and exoticism makes the heroes gasp. The waitress says that sashimi must be eaten with chopsticks, while sushi can be eaten with hands. Taking the chopsticks in his hands, Seto carefully places a piece of fish in his mouth. The appetizer is to the liking of both Satis and Seto. The girl picks up the sushi and dips it in the sauce. The texture of the fish and the flavor of the rice delights Satis. The characters share their reactions while the sushi lady smiles contentedly. Suddenly, bandits enter the diner. The waitress frighteningly informs them that all the tables are occupied, but the criminals don't even want to hear it and demand to vacate the table. One of the sushi men asks the bandits to leave the establishment, but this only makes the uninvited guests laugh. The biggest criminal notices Satis and asks her to follow them, but she notices Seto's furious look. The bandit exposes his blade and then licks the blade. He tells Seto that he doesn't like the hero's eyes. The bandit then attacks the kid, saying that he will kill him. The bandit attacks Seto, but the kid grabs a mug with sake and throws it towards the man. The alcohol stings the criminal's eyes, making them unable to open. Seizing the moment, Seto wraps his hands behind the villain's back and holds the bandit's blade to his throat. The bandit orders to kill Satis. One of the criminals points a blade at the girl and says that he will kill the demoness if the kid doesn't let the leader go. But Seto warns him not to point a gun at his friend. The bandit realizes that his sword is starting to feel lighter. It's with the help of magic Satis warps the bandit's blade and afterwards delivers a fist blow to his face. She declares that she asked for a reason to just leave her alone. The rest of the bandits run away from the restaurant, but before they can escape, they are overtaken by one of the guards of the city. This guard is the captain of the city garrison named Osirisa, dressed in a metal suit. Standing in a majestic pose, Osiris says that he will punish the bandits, but this time the criminals manage to escape. However, the criminals are reached by Osiris's magic sword. The captain is not happy that the bandits have decided to make a mess at his favorite establishment. Upon entering the restaurant, Osiris sees Seto, who has already managed to tie up the bandits. Osiris and Seto, two wielders of a magic sword, meet eyes. Osiris also recognizes Satis and wonders what the demoness has forgotten in his city, while the girl herself looks awkwardly at the guard. Osiris regrets that his precious store was robbed. He also doesn't understand how the famous officer of the demon army was able to defeat the brigands paired with the boy. Osiris reflects on the fact that this is really strange. He's watched Satis on the battlefields, but he's never seen this kid before. Osiris thinks that if this is the Satis he knows, she will try to get the upper hand using all her debating and flattery skills. But it's very strange to her that she's sitting quietly with all her attention on Seth. Osiris wants to know who he is. Osiris introduces himself and says that he is the light that pierces the dark sky. Satis squeezes Seto's hand under the table. Seto says that there is no point in hiding the fact that he is the wielder of this magical sword. Osiris says that he has heard that Seto is storm and destruction. Osiris recalls that Seto has been using the magic sword from an early age and has defeated many opponents with it. He is a legendary child warrior. Seto says to him not to exaggerate, for he was just an ordinary child and an errand boy. Osiris says he can't figure out what's wrong with them. He asks if Seto and Satis' strange tandem has something to do with the world situation. Satis replies that it probably is. Satis says that she used to actually be a member of the Demon Lord's army, but due to constant failures, she was forced to leave it. Along the way, she met Seth, who was also kicked off the team. Osiris realized that they were not feuding and just wanted a quiet life. Seto and Satis ask him what he is going to do to them. Osiris says he could forget about them, but he too has rules of organization that he must obey. Osiris tells them to come back tomorrow. To the other guards, he assures them that there is no need to arrest them. His plan is to keep an eye on them. Osiris says that he had a desire to see who was better at wielding a magic sword as soon as he saw Seth, so he wants to duel with him. Meanwhile, Seth's former team doesn't understand why this all happened. Angelica says that the people in that wagon were carrying real treasure in it. Team members wonder if a group standing up for ideals and righteousness could do this. Could they rob and kill people? Raid is anxious to get back, but he needs food and money to continue his journey. Angelica tells him to stop whining. She looks at the wagon, which is very full of food and goods. They can buy themselves a lot of new things, so they should go to town. Angelica tells him to resent himself because this happened because he is useless. She says that they are not doing the robberies for heroics. Angelica suggests he not blame her and go for a walk. Raid stands admiring the beauty of the moonlight. It clears his mind, but suddenly Angelica pushes him off a cliff. Raid manages to catch the edge of the cliff with his hand and asks Angelica what she is doing. She says she's had enough of his incompetence and it's time for him to die. She says not to worry, as she herself can continue their shared endeavor, but before she does, she'll stop by town to rest and look for a new partner. Raid says he won't let her do that, but Angelica doesn't care anymore because he's on the verge of death. But then Raid intercepts her arm, climbs back up and throws her off the cliff. Angelica falls off the cliff. Raid is very sorry for killing his partner, even though she was a bad person. But he had no other choice in that situation. He's not a bad person. He had to do it. And now he definitely has something to do. Seto and Satis wake up in a new city. Seto remembers about the letter he received from a hospital on his way to the city. The letter said that on the day after the full moon, a creature carrying death would appear. If Seto wants to become stronger, he must pass the test. There is not much time left until the full moon. Osiris is already meeting Seto and Satis at the dueling grounds. Osiris notifies Seto that this venue will decide the issue between just the two of them. Osiris challenges Seto to a duel, but tells him that killing is forbidden here. The judge himself will stop them if he thinks it is pointless to continue any further. Osiris also suggests that there should be a time limit of 5 minutes. Osiris explains that he wants to fight him because he also wields a magic sword, and he needs to find out which one is stronger. The rivals prepare for the upcoming fight. Osiris suggests that he forget about their relationship and background for 5 minutes and come together in battle, man to man. Osiris says that he has lowered the power of his weapon slightly, so Seth has nothing to worry about. Osiris says his sword specializes in firing laser beams. Osiris uses the flight of fiery justice technique. Osiris warriors cheer their captain from the stands and say he looks like a meteor of justice in the sky. Seto says his flying armor is a load of crap and Osiris is just a coward. Now Seto enters the battle with renewed vigor. He attacks so hard that Osiris flies off of him. Osiris is already aiming with his long-range weapon, but misses trying to hit Seto. Osiris tells Seth not to even think about being able to hit him. Satis tells Seth to run away sooner rather than later. Seth throws away his magic sword and Osiris asks him what he is up to. Seth runs to the end of the battlefield, but at the last moment turns around to face his opponent. He deflects Osiris' attack with the sudden appearance of a real magic sword. Osiris guesses that Seth changed the speed and angle of his attack, so he was just bluffing. Osiris tells him that the fight has just begun. Osiris tells Seth about the Hado Jutsu, technique used by foreign swordsmen. He says he's going to show it to him now. The referee suddenly punches the tambourine, barely in time. Osiris and Seth stop their two-pronged attack. The referee says this is the end of the fight. Osiris helps Seth up. Seth asks about the outcome of the fight, and Osiris says that Seth will be the winner, since he was able to cut his rays with his sword. Seth says that he just saw the direction of those rays, and Osiris wonders how he was able to see it all in such a small amount of time. Osiris says it's amazing. Satis runs up to Seth and asks if he's hurt. Seth tells her not to worry, he's fine, and the battle is already over. Osiris' allies also ask if he is injured. They tell him not to get upset, as he is still captain to them. The battle is over, and it's time to discuss things properly. Osiris says it was a glorious battle, and he hasn't fought like that in a long time. Seth asks him where he bought his flying armor. Osiris replies that they are not for sale, and they were custom made for him by magicians. Seth offers to have Satis make him the same armor, but she abruptly refuses and says she doesn't have the energy to do it. Osiris says that they are here to talk after all. Seth asks Osiris what the demons are doing now. Seth thinks about a hospital's letter. He needs to find out as much as he can about the demons so he can be more careful in battles. Osiris says that Seth and Satis are just tourists right now, so he can't just reveal military information to them, but he will tell them everything as a reward for fighting fair. He says that the Demon Lord's army is picking up speed right now. He also says that the army's command has been weakened since Satis left. Osiris says that they are all being defeated one by one in different countries. He thought he would be called to war, but he no longer has a chance to be on the battlefield. Osiris says that none of the scouts have noticed anything suspicious yet, so there's nothing to worry about. Satis says that the Demon Lord is not the kind of man who will waste time. She also tells him not to get caught up in thoughts of war, because in fact they're just regular commuters. All Satis wants is to be near Seth. Osiris tells them not to worry, because if anything, he'll blow the Demon Lord's army to smithereens. He says they can count on him in case of trouble. They leave the room, and Seth says that Osiris is really not a bad man. Satis replies to him that one day Seth will realize everything. They climb to the top of the hill and admire the views from there. Satis tells him that the beauty won't run anywhere if he sits down for a while. Seth is very excited about the fact that the adults are the only ones here. Satis says she thinks Seth is an amazing person. Seth is upset because he worries too much. The people around them are scrutinizing them. Seth is all sweaty. He talks about dreaming of an umbrella. Satis says she is also very sweaty. She points to her breasts which have drops of sweat running down them. Seth urgently demands water. Seth is too excited from what he has seen. Satis suggests he go to the sea and fish there. Seth agrees to it. Seth says that it is good to rent a fishing rod. Satis tells him not to wait for her. Seth is sitting peacefully on the pier fishing when suddenly he hears Satis' voice calling him. Satis runs to him in her new swimsuit and Seth can't resist the sight. She apologizes for keeping Seth waiting. Satis says she thought since they are at the sea, they should go for a swim. She tells him to enjoy this time to the fullest, and Seth doesn't know how to calm down. Satis jumps into the water off the pier. She surfaces, picking up a seashell from the bottom. Satis says fishing is good, but they need to swim together. Seto refuses, to which Satis thinks he just doesn't know how to swim. Seto says he can do it, he just doesn't want to. Satis tells him not to worry, because there's a spell on that spot that scares away other men, because she made that bikini just for him. Seto decides to touch Satis. She reminds him that it is forbidden to touch her, only to look at her. Seto asks why she allows herself then, to which Satis replies that she is allowed. Satis says that a naughty boy like him will have to be punished. Satis starts tickling Seto. Seto resists and tells her to stop doing it. Seto tells her that he has no clothes for swimming. Satis replies that he can only take off his top and she will dry the bottoms with magic later on. Seto undresses and jumps into the water after Satis. Satis gives him a route. Seto swims closer to Satis. She takes his hand and they swim together. After a while, Seto wakes up on the shore. Satis says they had a great swim and then Seto fell asleep. He asks her what she is doing. Satis makes a pendant out of that shell she picked up earlier. Seto says that anything will suit her, and Satis replies that it's not for her at all, it's for Seto. He asks in amazement if accessorizing would go well with him. Satis says that while she likes the Seto she has now, a fancy Seto would be even more interesting. Seto says that since she made it, it's okay to wear it. Satis tells him to turn his back to her and fastens the pendant around Seto's neck. Satis says that the pendant really suits him. Seto thanks her and says he will definitely keep it safe for her. Satis wishes that this pendant will help them keep these happy times both in health and in old age. Commander Osiris is suddenly visited by his subordinate and tells him the shocking news. It turns out that the monsters being tracked have started moving and changed their course, meaning that it means the Demon King has already crossed that very Wendigo forest. Meanwhile, in the Wendigo forest, the monsters are in a big hurry to get to the city, going through the swamp. Their chief tells them to hurry up, for the king has ordered them to take the shortest route. They had to traverse countless mountains and forests to get here from the Demon Lord's domain. All of them are exhausted, although there is one guy who is bored with the journey. He suggests to Gabiroku to play a word game. Gabiroku tells him he's too relaxed, and the guy asks him what forest they're in. He says it's the forest of the Wendigo, who jump out of the darkness and scare others. Gabiroku has never seen one, but he knows they exist. Guy says that when a Wendigo appears in front of him, it means he's on death's doorstep. The Wendigos themselves do not leave their territory, and therefore humans or animals should not enter their domain. Long ago, humans tried to burn their domain from afar, but all the instigators of the fires disappeared without a trace. No monster or human could do such a thing. Whether they're dealing with monsters or something else, they bear their fangs on anyone who invades their land. They may eat them or drag them off to another dimension, but the point is the same. They're all already dead. Gabiroku says that since even monsters fear them, they must be in the Demon King's army. Sebek suddenly stopped when he saw something lying on the ground. It turned out to be an old totem. It was created to serve as a warning, meaning that the sacred land of the Wendigo lies ahead. Gabiroku says that they need to warn the others and find a safe way through. The main monster notices the fog surrounding them and tells the others to be on the lookout, but suddenly he begins to suffocate. A huge Wendigo monster appears in front of them and shocks the entire squad. They try to escape and get out of the area. The Wendigos have taken to eating some of the team members. Their leader is very sorry that only half of them are left. He laments and says that he knew it, and at all costs they had to go around. Sebek and Gabiroku return. Sebek says that if they got out with so few casualties, that's even good. The rest of the squad says that there's no good here. He says that the Wendigo can't leave their lands, so they should be very careful. He suggests that the commander leave the place. Osiris summons Seto and Satis to him, apologizing for such an unexpected visit. He says that the reason is compelling. He says that the Wendigo forest is forbidden territory, and not every monster will be able to get in. Osiris warns them that demons are crossing that forest and moving toward the city. According to his information, The Demon King's unit also includes a humanoid swordsman who wields a magic sword. The demon army is defeated every time he is on the battlefield, and Osiris isn't sure if they can win this time around. Satis recalls something about this man. He is a demon/human hybrid known as the Fierce Crocodile. Satis has never met him, but she's sure he's more powerful than the others. She also recalls the name of his weapon, Apophis, snake venom. Seto recalls that a Hospitel's letter had a similar drawing in it. Osiris says he will not lose, but this battle is not his alone. Given their local power, it will be a hard battle. He calculates that the earliest they will come is 2 days after noon. Osiris says they need to leave the city as soon as possible. Osiris says he is not so gutless as to turn to a resting child for help. All the warriors mobilize and look for someone else for backup. Seto remembers Osiris' face. He would like Seto and Satis to fight at his side. Satis walks into the room and says he has it written all over his face that he's worried about Osiris. She says they are both bad at hiding their emotions. She turns to Seto and asks if they should run away. Satis says the same things could happen if they keep running away. She would like to live with him, but she wonders if they can make it if they just keep running. Seto takes her hand and asks her what he should do now. He's done enough reckless things, so Seto can't think the same way Osiris does. Seto says he can fight for his friend Osiris and his closest person Satis, so he wants to fight for them and himself. Satis tells him not to worry, because she is a woman who has commanded military strategists for a long time. Satis has a plan. Osiris observes the situation from the city tower. His subordinate reports to him that reinforcements are heading their way right now. The monsters are already approaching the city's fortress. Osiris reflects on the fact that the monsters can hardly stand on their feet because of their wounds, but they should not let their guard down. Because there are still people with magical weapons in their ranks, they just need to wait for help. Seto and Satis are lurking in the bushes, keeping in touch with the device. Seto says it was worth the 24-hour wait. And the plan was this. While the royal army would lay siege to the city, Seto was to wait for an opportune moment. He needed to get behind them while he could. Satis learned that the army was led by a humanoid lizard, which was their primary target. Satis handed him a shell necklace for communication and asked him to promise that he would return alive. Seto reports that he is almost at the edge of the forest. Satis says that now is the best time to attack, and he can begin to take action. Satis wishes him luck, and Seto is about to put the plan into action. The monsters are already advancing on the fortress, but then Osiris appears, saying that they can't escape his sword. Osiris is also attacked from behind by monsters. Osiris barely dodges the monsters' blows. He says they are very mistaken if they think they can finish him off so easily. He uses a secret technique with his sword. Now it's time for Osiris to show what he's really worth. Sebek is breathless from fighting so hard. He is told that you can't be so careless at a time like this. You have to take the battle more seriously. Sebek says he will make amends and immediately kills a town squad member with ease. His comrade in arms is frozen in horror that Sebek dared to kill a woman. Sebek replies that this is a battlefield, to which Gabiroku says that despite being a monster, his blade would never hurt a woman. Sebek says that people like her should be killed, because they are their enemies. Gabiroku replies that he is a soldier first and foremost, not a goblin. This is when Sebek abruptly runs away. Sebek shouts to Gabiroku that he relies on him for everything else. Sebek suddenly sees Seto fighting desperately. Seto kills the monster leader, thinking the main objective is accomplished, but then Sebek sneaks up on him from behind. Seto gets into a fighting stance. Sebek assumes they already know each other. Seto and Sebek stand across from each other, ready for battle. Sebek says that this is a very brave act for a young boy like Seto. He says that Seto reminds him of himself as a child when he was just as reckless. Sebek asks Seto to introduce himself. Sebek is the first to give his name, saying that he doesn't have a real name and never has. Seto says he is a simple traveler. He is grateful to the people of this city for many things, so he came to fight for them. Sebek says he has a great name and asks whose orders Seto obeys. Seto replies that he acts of his own free will. Sebek offers him some more time to talk to him. Seto is clearly in the mood for battle, not conversation. Seto dodges Sebek's sword at the last moment. Seto lands after being hit hard. He swings his blade at Sebek again, but realizes at the last moment that it has changed trajectory. Sebek swings and hits Seto's face with his sword, injuring him. Seto dodges a strong blow, only getting a scratch. Sebek smells Seto's blood on his blade. He says that the smell of his blood is much different from the ones he has killed before. Suddenly, Seto hears Satis' voice calling him over the communication device. Seto reports that he got into a fight with Sebek. He had heard of his power but didn't expect it to be this bad. Satis tells him to run away from there as he can't handle it anyway, to which Seto replies that he would have run away a long time ago if he had the chance. Yeah, and Seto can't just leave him here. He knows that Sebek is half monster and half human. He has tremendous strength and speed far beyond the average human, and he has perfectly honed weapon skills. His sword is like a hound stalking its prey in pursuit of retribution. The sword of a true killer, unencumbered by any circumstance. Sebek says that Seto has a very unusual sword, and on the battlefield they are very similar, one could say identical. Sebek notes that despite this, there are some differences between the two, such as Seto always caring for those around him without always respecting himself. Seto always tries to love and respect anyone but himself. Sebek thinks that fighting with such a person is impossibly boring. It can't be done that way. He should love himself more and start appreciating his own life. Sebek suggests that he should go to the battlefield together and start killing infidels. He has already said that they are almost the same in battle, after all. Sebek says that once Seto loves fighting and battles, he can love himself just as much. Sebek thinks that it makes no difference what life is like if it's so empty and meaningless. Seto tells him to shut up, because such sweet speeches have no effect on him. Sebek wonders how such a strong boy can treat an older man so badly, and he liked him at first. The battle continues. The battle between Seto and Sebek continues. Seto attacks furiously, while Sebek, smiling, holds back the blows. Sebek suddenly decides to look Seto in the eye. He suddenly realizes that Seto is a really good fighter, but if he makes a single mistake, Sebek will finish him off. Sebek wonders how he has so much strength, since he can deflect every attack at double speed and has no weaknesses at all. Suddenly, the tip of the blade is once again right in front of Seto's face. Miraculously, Seto deflects all of Sebek's blows and suddenly hits him right in the stomach. Seto tries to give him a posthumous blow, thus killing him. Sebek says that Seto is very predictable, and since he decided to finish him off, he could have done it more gracefully. Seto says that Sebek, a half-man half-witch, is only good for bragging. Sebek offers to unsheathe their magic swords and settle things in a mature manner. Seto replies that, no matter how powerful Sebek's sword is, it will tear him to pieces. Seto notices that Sebek has a rather atypical stance. Sebek has created a protective barrier around himself, reflecting all the arrows flying at him. It looks like reinforcements from the capital have arrived. They've almost won. All that's left is to deal with Sebek. Satis is already running to Seth's aid, and Sebek is told to drop everything and run, as their army is defeated and more people are coming. Sebek says they still have time to have some fun before the army arrives. Seto reflects on the fact that Sebek is surrounded by a barrier, once in which clearly nothing good will happen. He wants to wait for Satis, who might be able to help him in some way. He also ponders the fact that he will then put Satis in danger, so there's only one way out: break through Sebek's barrier and emerge victorious. Seto needs to do it faster than the barrier reacts and faster than Sebek notices it, so he has to move as fast as he can. Seto tries to get closer to Sebek. Sebek is already swinging, but suddenly something gets in their way. This is when Osiris and Satis come to Seto's aid. Sebek says that Seto is a trickster for fooling him so easily. Now that not only Satis but Osiris is here, maybe they can defeat him together. Sebek is now surrounded and has nowhere to run to. Sebek puts Gabiroku in his place and just runs away from the battlefield. He just took off and ran away. Osiris asks Seth how reckless you have to be to just take to the battlefield alone. Satis says that she made the plan, and it was just perfect. Satis says that Seto just wanted to reciprocate the people who once helped him a lot. Osiris and marvels that there are still people in this world who are willing to sacrifice their skin. Osiris says that he needs to thank Seto for his bravery, as they easily cleared the front with Seto's help in distracting Sebek to himself. Osiris suggests they go to the city and meet the soldiers. He doesn't take no for an answer. It would be rude of them not to celebrate their victory over the monsters. The battle ends with the victory of the humans, and all the soldiers are very happy about it. But no one remembered Seto's so significant contribution to the battle. However, Seto didn't care much. Seto never intended to become a hero of millions. He only wanted to help his friends and protect his loved ones. He didn't need more than that. Seto is offered to take the money as a reward for helping in the battle. He refuses, saying that the most important thing to him is that the city is now out of danger. Despite this, Osiris says that the city's salvation is mostly the merit of Seto and Satis, and that the warriors' share here is relatively small. Satis tells Seto to take while they're given, because there's nothing wrong with that. Osiris tells them not to be in a hurry to leave. He suggests they try working for them. Osiris is quite appreciative of their abilities and tells them to imagine how many people they could help with such skills. Satis and Seto reply that they would agree, but their paths are diverging now. Certainly if they have to fight again, they would gladly help, but they would fight for their own sake rather than for society. Osiris says that either way he is grateful for the work they have done. It was only because they distracted Sebek that the army was able to win this battle. Seto recalls that he has never before faced such strength, such steadfastness, and such a sword. Seto will not defeat him so easily. He has a test to pass, which he learned about from Ahaspetel's letter, but he would like to ask Osiris for advice. Osiris says that he has a letter that he took for safekeeping from a guy named Jindal from the village of Benjamin. The letter says that if Seto has gotten off the right path in life, he should follow the clue to the place indicated on the map. There's also a symbol drawn there in the shape of a snake and a crocodile. It's Sebek. Osiris says that getting a letter from a Wendigo is not for everyone. Seto thinks that it is probably in his destiny to fight Sebek again. That place on the map is very far away. Seto suggests resupplying and setting off at dawn. Satis wonders why Seto didn't tell everything earlier. She blames herself. Seto tells her not to apologize. After all, it is his fault for not daring to tell her. Satis says that the letter does indicate that he will have to fight Sebek again. Satis says that he has her now, and she will do everything she can to help him. Seto asks Satis if she loves herself. Satis doesn't understand why Seto would ask something like that so abruptly. Seto says that before Sebek's words he never even thought about it. Now he at least understands why to love other people, but why to love himself he never understood. Satis says she stands in solidarity with him. Satis says that as of late, she too has realized what it feels like to love someone. But she can hardly answer with accuracy whether she loves herself. She also decided to ask Seto what he thinks about Sebek's words about them being almost the same in battle. Seto says that he never thought of fighting as a meaning of life. What he likes most is traveling with Satis and meeting new interesting people. Satis says she likes Seto a lot. Satis says that she would like to learn to appreciate herself someday like he does. Seto says that together they will overcome everything and get through it together. They decide to go into town and relax one last time before they leave in the morning. Up ahead, they spot Osiris. Osiris decides to thank them again for a job well done. He says to call him right away if there are any difficulties. Osiris says that he will surely solve all problems, for otherwise he would not be a true fighter for justice. Satis gives Seto the shell pendant again and puts it on Seto. He thanks Satis for it. They walk together and think about the fact that despite their differences, they are still walking the same road. Hadora, who has been searching for Seth, is sitting in the village jail in confinement when she is called out by someone's voice. A guard approaches her and leads her out of her cage, telling her that someone has come to see her. Eudora finds herself in a settlement for weirdos, and it turns out she's now one of them too. Perhaps it was fate itself in her search for Seto that brought her here. She used to think she was on the right path, following her father's instructions without question, hating evil and respecting good. But where could she have stumbled? She is brought to the headman, where she is asked how she is feeling. Hadora replies that she is not very well. She is questioned about her past, saying that she used to be one of those intent on destroying the demon lord. Hadora says that is all in the past, for there is no going back, not for the team or the kingdom. She has bowed her head to them so many times, begging for forgiveness, and now she is a criminal. She says that she was once a heroine, one of those who were responsible for people's hopes for a brighter future. And what has become of her now? The headman says that she heard from Lady Satis and Seth about Eudora's situation, but she had no idea it was so bad. Hadora reveals that she was one of the people who thought that eliminating Seto from the team was a good idea. After he left, the team was never able to fill the gap and the harmony between them was destroyed. She was convinced until the last that they were doing the right thing, so she doesn't understand why this happened. In Eudora's eyes, Seto was always a savage, a barbarian and a soulless killing machine. She always looked down on him. At that moment, Seto's future fate was obvious to her. She divided the world into black and white, judging others based only on the morals her father had taught her, so she saw some demonic essence in Seto, who was just trying to survive. Looking at him once again, she convinced herself that she was 100 times better than that boy Seto. However, suddenly Seto declared that he was no longer a warrior and he wanted to go his own way. Hadora thought he hated everyone and everything, but then it turned out he never had that hatred for anyone, ever. Even in the heat of battle, he remained equally indifferent to enemies and allies alike. He didn't judge people for their actions. Rudo said that this was his true nature. He is sure that in the beginning Seto also hated his enemies. But as it always happens, the realization came to him that this hatred was meaningless and empty. At the moment of realization, it is usually too late to flee from the battlefield, so they only have to fight on for their country and people, realizing the absurdity of what is happening. They also have to fight for the kind of heroes that Hadora used to be. She remembers what Seto's eyes were like after the assassination, cold and empty. She even wondered if he even felt anything. Everyone feared Seto and expected no mercy from him, but he wasn't really a monster. He only appeared to be a killer. In reality, he felt that there was simply no use for those feelings, and showing feelings wouldn't make him feel better anyway. Hadora wondered why no one had ever tried to show him any kindness or lend a helping hand when he needed it. It seems that Hadora had never been able to grasp the true meaning of the humanity her father had taught her. The headman said that humanity is nothing more than pity towards others, and Eudora's father is not that great. Eudora says that this only happened to her because she relied on the values her father taught her. The headman says that Mrs. Satis is a beautiful woman who loves Seth with all her soul. She believes that Seth has changed a lot because of her influence. Satis also mentioned that she no longer has anything to do with the Demon King. The headmistress knows for a fact that Seth has finally been able to love himself. Hadora tried to use Seth as a tool to accomplish her goals. It's likely that Hadora was wrong. Starasta says that judging by the look on Eudora's face, she's feeling much better now. Hadora stands up and apologizes that because of her rash actions and misguided ideology, the village has been irreparably harmed. Hadora asks for punishment. The headman asks Rudo what to do with her. Rudo tells her to take off her handcuffs first because it is very unusual for him, such a barbarian and savage, to see a young girl sitting handcuffed in front of him. Rudo says it's not the most fun, but whatever the reason. He says Hadora reminds him of them in her years. The headman tells her she is free to go. Hadora can leave the village as soon as she regains her health. She suggests that Hadora stay in the village a little longer. Eudora wonders how she, steeped in sin, deserves to be treated like this. She is not worthy of it. The headman replies that this is a village of weirdos and everyone deserves something. Eudora asks to be brought back to her cell, even though she could have gone anywhere else. For some reason, she wanted to stay there a little longer. The guard reflects on the fact that Eudora could have said she wanted to go somewhere else, and the guard would have taken her there. Eudora looks at the view from the window. The priestess rambles through the mountains and reflects on the fact that the scent of the sea breeze is almost gone. She thinks that she should take a small break. The place under the tree is already taken by Seth and Satis. Priestess asks if she can join them, to which Seto and Satis agree. The priestess thanks them heartily. The priestess introduces herself. Her name is Kyom. She says that she is a traveling priestess who helps those in need. Afterward, she asks Satis and Seth to introduce themselves. They give their names. It turns out that they are all on their way to the ancient ruins of a temple. Could this be fate? Satis marvels at how radically the world around him has changed. A great many kites have appeared in the sky, and the landscape looks more bleak. Satis says that the birds look more like condors. Kyom tells her that one of these birds recently attacked her and stole her entire lunch. Satis tells her not to worry as they will easily chase them away if anything happens. Kyom says that she has never gotten along with the birds. Seth replies that they are completely confident in their abilities. Seth also notices that she leans on her cane when she walks, as if it helps her see what's going on around her. They are approaching a very strange gorge. Satis tells them that this place has a very deep history because it was created in a symbiosis between humans and nature, and perhaps these lands hold something mystical in them. The three travelers are already being targeted by some kind of monster sniper. They come to a sign that says that if they go forward a little bit, the road will lead them to the temple, but they are suddenly ambushed. An orc king suddenly comes down to them and tells Satis that he didn't expect to meet her in these parts. Yes, it's the king himself, in person. Satis asks what he has forgotten in such a place, since there has been no information about the advance of his army. The Orc King says he doesn't think his story will make any difference. The Orc King says that he has left the magical army and now he is acting alone. He is his own king. Satis is asked who this is. She explains that this Orc King used to command an army of demons just like her, but it's all kind of suspicious. Satis recalls that the Orc King was one of the people the king trusted more than himself. They stood hand in hand beside each other on the battlefield. But what on earth happened for the Orc King to suddenly drop everything to favor a gang of some bandits? Satis says it looks like he just got kicked out of the army like she once did. The Orc King tells her to shut up, assuring everyone that it was only his decision. Unlike the king, these people value him as a person, appreciate his talents, his intelligence, and wisdom. He has his own army now, so why would he want to serve anyone? He can create his own kingdom on his own. Seth asks if things are so bad in the demon army that they allow themselves to get rid of their best commanders so easily. Satis shakes her head negatively. The Orc King suggests she join the ranks of his vassals. Satis tells him to stop pointing her out, for he has been discarded like the last of the trash. The Orc King recalls that back in the day, Satis was flirting left and right, trying to make herself valuable through cheap flattery. He says she has become very pathetic. The Orc King claims that she is wandering the world in the company of some milkman and a strange weirdo. He orders his subjects to massacre them. Seth says he wants to teach them a lesson, but she pulls him back. She says to leave the Orc King to her. She has recovered enough so she can fight again. They have insulted her honor. This will be the first battle Satis will lead since she commanded the demon army. She's quite confident in her abilities, and she can do it. And to Seth, she orders her to protect Kayame. Seth accepts Satis' plan. The Orc King says that she's a magical being who needs a constant boost of magical energy, and in a place like this, she simply doesn't stand a chance of doing that. Plus, the Orc King has a great advantage in close combat. The Orc King orders his subordinates to kill Seth and Kyom, and he will take care of Satis himself. Satis tells him to at least try to touch her first if he's so eager to kill her. The Orc King and Satis stand across from each other waiting for the battle to begin. Seto is very worried about Satis as the past has left many wounds on her heart. He fears for her as he doesn't know if they have been able to heal. However, Seto believes her since Satis states that she is ready for battle, but he shouldn't relax just yet. Seto thinks about the fact that he still has to protect Kyom, and there are already many enemies among them. He ponders whether he will be able to deal with them without the magic sword. He tells Kyom that he will clear a path for her, and on a signal, she will have to flee. Kyom tells him not to exert himself so much. She says she can handle them on her own. She asks where approximately they are. She asks the Orc King's companions not to threaten the poor girl with weapons, because that would be very bad. She advises them to back off and not to take rash actions before it's too late. The Orc King's boys only laughed in response and asked what she would do to them if they disobeyed her. Kyom asks them to stop talking to her like that. She says they have no money and nothing to take. An associate of the Orc King says that waiting for the commanders to fight and sitting back is ridiculous, so orders are orders. They tell her to prepare to die. Seto is very worried about Kyom since she can't see them and therefore won't be able to dodge the attack in time. He feels a current of air above him. It turns out to be Kyom's wind sword. Kyom says that these people seem too arrogant to her, and that mood seems to have transferred to her as well. People are perplexed as to what's wrong with her, since she doesn't seem like a normal blind person. Seto recalls that it's a secret art that only skilled warriors from distant lands, i.e. samurai, possess. Kyom says that since it's been revealed, there's nothing more to do. Seto says that they will fight them together, because he was once a soldier too, and he is trained in the art of combat. Kyom says he catches her off guard. Seto asks if they can handle all the bandits, to which Kyom replies that there aren't that many, and Seto marvels at the courage of the samurai. They divide the Orc King's companions amongst themselves. Seto promises her not to cut herself and enters the battle. Together, Seto and Kyom destroy all of the Orc King's companions. Seto tells her that he didn't think she was that strong. Kyom replies that he's no slouch either. She also gets rid of the blood stains on her clothes with ease and says that she is special. The gods have blessed her and she can easily get rid of any dirt or dust on her clothes, but at the same time she herself is a dirty stain and there is no way to scrub it off anymore. Seto asks about the reasons why she became so strong and suggests that she did it because she doesn't want to die. Seto says that he feels it is his duty to point out how beautifully she wields a sword. Kyom replies that she really didn't want to die, so she plays the nice, simple girl with a dagger behind her back. Sometimes she has to use it, but sometimes not even for her own sake, but for the sake of others. Sometimes it is to her own detriment and to the benefit of others, sometimes the other way around. That's how she lives her life. Now only the Orc King and Satis are left. He asks her how long she is going to hold off his blows, to which Satis replies that fighting him has become much easier compared to when he was the commander of the army. The Orc King tells her to cut the crap. The Orc King tells her that she won't be able to let his guard down this way anyway. Even so, her magic still won't be enough. Satis decides to test this and put her abilities to the test. As a commander, she often went overboard and put her pride above everything else. If she failed at something, she would immediately get angry. The Orc King says it's like a revelation before death. Satis tells Seth to leave. Satis says it's time to put her special talent to use, which she hasn't thought of in a while, but still has a knack for it. Seto says that if there's no other way to protect her but to do so, he's willing to do so. He notices the Orc King's rings, which reflect all of her magic. He will have to fight him. Kyom tells him to trust Satis, for there is no one in the world stronger than a woman who is determined to protect the one she holds dear. Seto says that his heart breaks every time he thinks that something could happen to her. Kyom tells him not to get worked up and to stand quietly. The Orc King says he will put the most beautiful flowers on her grave, and it's like the wind is already humming a funeral march for her. Satis says he doesn't think so. Satis says that if anyone dies today, it certainly won't be her. Satis decides to use her secret seventh heaven technique. Kyom and Seth stand on the defense, and the Orc King clearly didn't expect such power from his main rival. Satis whispers a secret spell that shatters her opponent's weapons, and the Orc King has no idea what she's up to until the last moment. The Orc King's axe has begun to crack, and he wonders if it's Satis magic that's affecting him this way. Satis says it's a direct hit. Satis whispers another spell. This spell summons a fire attack against the Orc King. First his axe, and now such a powerful attack. Kyom says that it was a top-class speed spell, that is, a magic that not only makes the wielder move faster, but also doubles the speed of spell casting. Satis says she wouldn't be surprised if that's what everyone thinks now, but still, it's not at all what they think it is. She strikes blow after blow, and the Orc King says they need to activate the defense against her dam attacks immediately. He realizes it's too late, as she's moving very fast and he's not in time. The Orc King doesn't even realize how she's even staying on her feet after all her blows. Satis says that the speed spell is not a higher magic at all, but even the opposite. The essence of her special power of the seventh heaven is that it significantly slows down time around its creator without affecting him or her. The closer the enemy is to the caster, the slower the passage of time becomes for him. For living beings caught in the zone of this magic, it goes unnoticed, and they do not even realize that something is wrong. That's why it can seem to ordinary people from the outside that she moves within human speed, and they do not even have time to follow her strokes, and to her they all look sluggish. Satis says that this greatest art will make them question the existence of a god on this earth. The Orc King says he doesn't know what this magic is, but it sure won't help her. He can't be fooled by these tricks. He says that just one moment and all her efforts will be in vain. Satis says that he talks so slowly that the meaning of his words is lost before she can hear it. Satis tells him not to think that his rings have defenses against such spells. She rips the rings off of him with magic, but not 3 minutes after activating the seventh heaven, and her powers are already running low, so she decides to end it quickly. Suddenly, she looks at Seth and sees a light coming from him. This light, like a guiding star, guided her through the darkness. It was Satis who always stayed away from everyone. Everything she has accomplished until today, the strength with which she went into battle, all of it is only because of Seth's help. Satis says that the Orc King has only seconds to live. She tells him to get ready, because this is going to be painful enough. He gets hit with one last powerful attack, and decides to reflect on where he miscalculated, because he did everything perfectly until the last one. So Satis destroys the Demon King. After the battle, Satis suddenly collapses to the ground with no energy. She says she feels she did her best, and Seth praises her and says she did great and he never doubted her. Satis smiles genuinely. Meanwhile, the Demon King's defeated army heads to his castle. The crushingly defeated soldiers are barely dragging their feet after losing their commanders in the last battle. The few surviving soldiers, weary from their wounds, headed back to the king. However, even if they can make it back, nothing good awaits them there. Everyone's faces look like they're sinners on their way to the death penalty, but Sebek alone is walking merrily along. humming a song. Goblock turns to him and says it would be worth it to see what's going on around him. Sebek isn't part of a squad of elite fighters, though, so he has nothing to fear. Sebek turns to him and says that little Seth is just cute. He's very adorable to Sebek. Goblock clearly didn't expect to hear that. Sebek says he's very happy that he's finally found the perfect opponent for him. He's sure that Seth wants to kill him just as much as Sebek wants to kill him. He even says that maybe he and he are soulmates. Sebek is clearly overjoyed to have found the perfect opponent. For Sebek, fighting has always been something like a sip of water for the dehydrated. He has put his entire life into finding an enemy worthy of him. There was no loyalty to the king, and there was no loyalty from the beginning. He joined the army just to find a rival for himself. Suddenly, the warriors see other people in their path. The commanders order them to hold their defenses, for they are warriors who have sworn an oath to their king. Sebek decides that now is the time to cool their ardor. Sebek says Seth will have to wait for him a little longer. When fate brings them together again, he will be much stronger than he is now. Sebek is the same demon from the legends, born by mixing demon and human blood. Raid rides on a stolen wagon and wanders into a village. The people realize that this is a hero. They wonder what he could possibly want in the middle of nowhere and without an escort. A gentleman says that Reed must be tired from the road and offers to let him rest at his place as long as he can. Reed walks through and hears some voice out of the darkness saying that Reed is at a crossroads, and he is completely confused. Suddenly, he sees McLean, who he thought was long dead. But Macklin tells him to take care of himself now, not him. Reed thinks he's just a figment of his imagination. McLean says that up until this point, Reed has given all of his energy to serving people, but where is he going now? Reed says that his plan to overthrow the demon army is perfect. He only stumbled a little. It was an accident. McLean asks how they deserved such a fate, and for what sins he treated them so badly. So why did he let them die? Reed recalls all the situations that have happened and tells him that McLean is dead and he needs to get out of here. He won't intimidate him. McLean tells him to calm down and remember the true purpose of his journey. He needs to temper his anger and try to reason straight. Reed tries to chase away his hallucination. Macklin tells him that he is a lowlife who is already heading straight into the abyss. He tells him to remember how many innocent people have fallen by his hand. Macklin tells him that the real monster here is him. Reed yells that they were the ones who tried to get in his way, so he had to get them out of the way, and it's not his fault. He mumbles the same thing in a fit of agony about how it's not his fault and he's definitely fine. The villagers inspect the wagon and say it looks pretty old. They speculate that it might have just worn out over time, though it looks more like it's falling apart from old age. Suddenly, they notice a trademark on the back of the wagon. But why is the hero riding a trade wagon? The villager keeps thinking about the new hero Reed coming to visit them. Finally, the day came when they met. She couldn't stop thinking about him ever since she heard about him going on a long journey. She says she's certainly not the kind of beauty that heroes hang on to in packs, but she doesn't look so hopeless. She wants to try to help him relax and get to know him a little better. She walks into the gentleman's room, where he's already waiting for her with a gun. Going crazy, Reed kills the girl. Reed wakes up from his dream and says that in his nightmare, a demon in the form of a Julika lured him with sweet speeches. He says he needs to calm down as it is just a dream and a Julika is already dead. But suddenly he notices blood on his hands. He accidentally discovers the corpse of a girl lying covered in blood in front of him. McLean is shocked at what he has done. Reed says he didn't do it, the girl was just worried about him and came to check on him. And this is the result. Reed did it of his own free will. McLean asks him how come the truth he fought for has morphed into something that Reed dares to call justice. He says that Reed doesn't care about others at all, and if things don't go his way, he immediately begins to bring them to justice. Reed denies it and claims that he was really trying for world peace. McLean asks why he would kill another innocent man for that very piece. Macklin tells him to recognize that he will never be the same man again. Macklin tells him to deny his past and repent of his crimes, because that's the only way to heal. He needs to forget that he was once a hero. From now on, his whole life must be devoted to atoning for his sins. He may have to pay dearly for them, more dearly than he realizes, but at least it will help him not get off the wrong road. McLean tells him to take his hand. If he is ready for this path, he will lead him. Reed asks him if he even understands what he's carrying. Reed says he did nothing wrong, and removing obstacles is part and parcel of any journey. He's dealt with them, and there's certainly no way anyone can stop him now. Macklin tells him to think again, because if he lets him disappear, he'll never see him again. Reed says that McLean has had enough of him, and he just wants justice to be served, and it's all for the best. He's no longer able to hide his identity, so he'll do anything to make McLean disappear. Reed destroys Macklin and is happy that it worked. He's a hero now, a hero of this dirty world. Nothing will stop him, and it doesn't matter how many people he has to kill to do it. Now he has to hide this girl. Reed takes the dead girl's body out and covers his tracks, wiping up the blood. That's better. Now it's time for Reed to eat. Cheom tells him not to get discouraged, but to go eat and give Satis a proper smile, as she could definitely use it now. Cheom gives him a treat and tells him not to even think of refusing it. Kyom says that kids need to eat well to be fit. And Seth has had enough of acting up. Kyom wishes them luck and leaves. Seth thinks about the fact that she's right, and he shouldn't try to jump in over his head. Seth has walked around almost the entire town, but he still hasn't found anything special. He wants to try going deeper into the street. He turns down to the last undiscovered spot here and realizes that this seems to be what he's looking for. He sees the totems, and for some reason he feels uneasy about this temple. He wants to look around and go look for something else. Suddenly, Seth is surrounded by a gang of some boys. Seth says that he has never seen them in the city. He immediately picks up on the fact that they are amateurs, because they are too tense and too awkward with their guns, but it's worth it to get into a fight with them, after all. He promised Satis to be careful and not do anything stupid. He wonders if they might be guarding the place. Seth tells them not to stand pillar to post and at least try to take him prisoner, otherwise what are they going to do with him? The main one of the team hesitantly tries to lead Seth along behind him. Seth suddenly takes the weapon from the boy and twists him from behind. Seth picks him up and apologizes for stepping into someone else's territory. He was just walking through town and decided to stop by this place. He wasn't going to fight and take the boys' guns away. Seth is just about to leave. Here the boys beg him to be their elder, since he is so strong. But first they have to take him to their leader. Seth resists, but the boys tell him not to think about it, because their leader is very good and Seth will definitely like him. The boys take Seth to their boss and tell him that he is very strong. The leader introduces himself as Jake and apologizes for his boys bringing him here. Seth says it's no big deal, since he's the one who entered their territory without asking. Jake tells him that he's being kind. Jake tells him to introduce himself in return. Jake realizes that he is the same Seth, Destructive Storm. Using the magic sword, Jake is so happy to see him that he even thinks he's asleep. Seth says he was just an errand boy, and he didn't do anything so heroically admirable. Jake tells him not to be modest and asks him to show Seth the legendary magic sword. His kids want to see it too. Seth says it's a battle tool, and he won't bear it in a place like this. Seth gets angry and yells. Seth says he's sorry he went in without permission, but that's why it's also hard on him that Jake is asking for such a thing. Jake understands the situation and says that he too was overreacting. Seth says they already know about him. Now he asks them to introduce themselves in return. Jake introduces him to the Revolutionary Army. He says that they're made up of orphans who lost their parents in the war and were abandoned to their fate. So there are already a lot of people who have heard of Seth. Seth asks if he's really going to go to war with the country. Jake confirms this and says that they will go to war with those who did this to them. He also remarks that the fact that the legendary warrior Seth came here is a sign. Jake suggests he change the world together. Seth thinks deeply about his offer. Jake explains that these adults don't think of them as children. To them, they are just insects. He says that they are still a small group, but with Seto, they can change the world. Jake says that he will be able to save the children who are suffering because of war, politics, and selfish desires of adults. Seto says he's not interested in revolution or revenge. Jake clearly didn't think this was true. He assumed Seth hates adults too. Seth says he was taken advantage of too, since he was just a kid. He's been through both cruel and bitter things, except he doesn't feel like he has to do anything about it. Seth apologizes, says he has a man waiting for him, and leaves. Jake tells him to take his time, come back tomorrow and talk things over normally. The guys plead with Seth not to abandon them. Seth only looks back at them, but walks away anyway. Seth tells the whole story to Satis. He says he wants no part of it, but thinks about the circumstances they got into. Satis says that sooner or later these guys are going to get arrested. Seth says his heart bleeds when other people get hurt, but can they do anything? Satis says to meet with them again, especially if they've already called him tomorrow. Suddenly, Kyom walks in with a bottle of alcohol. She offers to drink to the fact that they've gotten this far together. Kyom says she hasn't had a drink this good in a long time. She'd love to talk to them some more, but she has to run. Seto offers to walk her out. He says she's an adult, and she needs to take care of herself. Kyom says that's just adult logic that can't be dismissed. Kyom seems to have made it safely to her room. From conversation, she turns out to be a surprisingly funny person, as if straight out of Benjamin Village. Seto opens the window and admires the views of the night and the stars in the sky. Suddenly, Satis calls him to her and suggests he sleep next to her. Seto is rebuffed and says he can sleep alone. She says that Seto had a hard day today, so he can be rewarded. Seto says he only did what he had to do. Satis asks if he wants to sleep with her. Here they are already in bed together 17. Satis tells him that he shouldn't be so nervous, and Seth replies that he's trying hard enough as it is. Satis recalls that he even slept on her lap, so why is he still not used to it? 8. Satis cuddles Seto closer to her 9. Satis tells him that he is a very spoiled boy. Seto suddenly becomes incredibly calm and apologizes for breaking the ban. Satis tells him that today is okay chap. Seto introduces Satis to the place. She says that she had imagined a little differently, as this place is connected to the Wendigo. Suddenly, Seto is approached by Jake and asks how he is connected to this woman Satis. Seto replies that Satis is his significant other that he was talking about yesterday. Jake says that Seth didn't mention that she is so beautiful. Jake admires Satis and is perplexed how someone like Seth can be with her all the time. Seth explains that he and she are looking for a place together where they can be at peace, but it's pretty hard for them right now. Jake tells him that he's a lucky guy. Seth replies that he had that feeling at the beginning of their journey too. Satis calls out to Seth and asks him to come over to her. Satis says there is a passage behind that altar, but these ruins are so ancient that the whole building could collapse. Jake says he'll know exactly where the danger is. He says he'll take the defense mission on himself. Seto says that even though Jake is the leader of the revolution, he still seems like a cheerful kid. Jake says he saw a spacious hall in the back 6. They walk inside and see a temple dedicated to the virgin goddess Shotalhulk. This goddess represents life, thus she is opposed to a hospital, the Wendigo of death. Seth can't figure out if this place is a place of trial. Jake points them to some item and asks if it could be what they're looking for. Jake calls them closer. Jake shows them a huge well. Jake asks Satis if she knows anything about this place. She says she will try to find out. Jake says that maybe this place was once meant for a ritual. They throw a rock there and it shatters. Satis tells them not to go off on their own, and Seth wonders how this could have happened in the first place. Satis says it might have something to do with the thing Jake pointed out earlier. It says that there are 4 spirits resting here, mesmerized by death. One who is similarly mesmerized by it must go to the source. Seth guesses that this might be the place for the test for. Seth says there is someone very strong that he can't defeat until he passes this test. Seth decides to jump into this fountain, but Satis and Jake miraculously stop him, saying it's very dangerous. Seth says he can't pass the challenge if he doesn't dive in there, and they have no other options. Satis takes his hand and Seth tells her not to worry because he will be back soon. Seth says that if he gets hurt, he'll be sure to lay on her lap and heal when he gets back. Jake tells them not to forget that he's here 2.9. Seto reminds him that he has someone who will be waiting for him, so he needs to be careful. Jake tells him to be sure to come back alive and unharmed. Seto offers to be Jake's friend upon his return. Jake is very happy about this and he accepts his offer. Seto dives into the portal and the guys tell him to be sure to come back. So Seto finds himself in a different place. The place looks like a desert abandoned by bones. It looks like an illusion, but the heat is real. Seto's mouth is all dry, and he doesn't know where to find a way out. His heart will gradually dry up from endless trials and hardships. Suddenly, one of the spirits appears in front of him and says that sadness is a thing that naturally causes a person to cry, but a dry heart cannot shed tears, so it will never be satisfied. For him, sorrow is truly lonely. Seto realizes it's one of the spirits. His name is Desiccating Sorrow. He shows Seto a human skull. He asks Seto if he can hear the pain of grieving people. Seto realizes that he was attacked as soon as he got here. The spirit's skull-shaped lantern absorbs moisture from the environment, so the spirit will easily defeat him, since a long fight in this case equates to death. He realizes that he needs to wait until his physical strength runs out before chopping it down. Seto hasn't felt this way in a long time, for his time with Satis has changed him greatly. And now he must become who he was again and fight mortal danger without fear. The spirit cannot move freely as long as it controls the wind and moisture. The spirit asks if this boy can break through his storm and heal his sorrow. If not, there won't even be a corpse left of him. Seto says it's much better now. Seto swings his sword at him. He says that by all means he will definitely survive. The spirit begins to attack back, using his skull-shaped lantern. Seto is suffocating from the dryness and sand. Seto remembers how, when he was a child, he was forced to throw himself into a sandstorm. His whole body burns from the heat, but he doesn't care what it costs him. For the spirit, everything has to be solved with one lightning attack. The spirit says that Seto better take his trial by sorrow, a sadness that covers the heart but doesn't fill the eyes with tears. This landscape will forever be dry. The spirit draws out his chief weapon. The spirit approaches him and attacks with all its might. They come face to face, but Seto deflects his powerful attack. Seto says he has the advantage in close combat. Spirit says that Seto's poor soul will be gone very soon. Spirit uses his lantern to attack again. Seto once again manages to stand and not fall. Seto says he couldn't find the words to sympathize with the spirit's sadness. He's just dumb, so he's not good at saying smart things. Seto says he has to kill him at all costs in order to go on the path forward. Seto summons his magic sword using the abundance and downpour technique.